We are kicking off today with SmackDown as 24 hours ahead of Money in the Bank, Jey USO opened the show by confidently stating that he will be leaving Toronto with the briefcase. Soon after, LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, and Andrade made their way to the ring to stake their claim before Drew McIntyre arrived to loud CM Punk chants from the crowd. McIntyre didn't hold back, calling Andrade El Idiot, and expressed pity for Chad Gable, and he told Carmelo Hayes that he's not him, but rather looking up at him. When Drew mentioned LA Knight, fans erupted with "yeah" chants, but McIntyre came prepared and said the only thing Knight will hear at the PLE is no. Turning to Jey USO, McIntyre delivered a personal diss, asking, "How the hell did you get across the border anyway?" acknowledging Jey's past DUI charge from 2018. This past legal problem had previously prevented Jey from traveling to Canada, and the tensions escalated until an inevitable brawl that ended the opening segment on a high note. McIntyre's jab at Jey was appreciated by fans aware of the past, though PW Insider reports that USO was unhappy and hesitant that WWE Creative had come up with the idea to use his DUI. The anticipation for the Money in the Bank ladder match continues to build, but what did you make of this segment and Drew's line about Jey USO? Sound off in the comments. At WWE Money in the Bank, Seth Rollins will challenge World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest for the title, but there will be much more than gold on the line. Should Priest lose, he'll lose the gold and his spot in the Judgment Day, while a defeat for Seth will see him barred from challenging Priest for the title ever again. With that in mind, fans are eager to see which direction WWE goes in, and we've now got an update on what WWE is planning on tonight's show. According to reports, one idea pitched is for Rollins to win the title in his first match back since WrestleMania 40 after spending months out with a torn meniscus. The belief in WWE is that Rollins is just naturally a better fit for the title than Priest, and a match between Seth and Gunther at SummerSlam will be better received than Gunther versus Priest. Speaking of the King of the Ring, the show would end with a stare-down with Rollins, setting up what would be a strong build to the biggest party of the summer. That isn't the only idea being pitched though, as reports have suggested that Drew McIntyre could be the one who ends Money in the Bank standing tall. McIntyre has vowed to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match and cash in the same night, and one idea being pitched is for exactly that to happen. Some have suggested that this is why the World Heavyweight title match is planned to be the main event, so that the show goes off the air with a huge cash-in moment. It's been 8 years since a male superstar cashed in Money in the Bank on the same night he won it, and doing so would cause a lot of drama heading into SummerSlam. These are just two ideas being floated around for tonight's show, and would you like to see either happen, or should WWE go in a different direction? Sound off in the comments. Tonight, WWE will host its annual Money in the Bank event, but the show could see not only two superstars capture the coveted briefcase, but could also see a major return. According to one Twitter account, which is on location in Toronto for the show, Charlotte Flair's entrance lasers have been tested, implying that the Queen could be at the event. Perhaps Flair will return in the women's ladder match, as her father Rick has said she has been recovering faster than anyone predicted, and it'd certainly be a huge way to return. Adding her to the match last minute would hardly win fans over who believe she has received special treatment, but that could be exactly what WWE wants if Flair returns as a heel. Flair hasn't competed since December 8th of last year, where she suffered a torn MCL, ACL, and meniscus injury against Asuka, and what do you make of her rumored return tonight? Kevin Owens was at this week's SmackDown and had a major issue to discuss ahead of tonight's six-man tag between himself, Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton against the Bloodline. On SmackDown, Owens shared that he flew to his hometown in Quebec 5 days ago, as his mother is in the hospital battling illness, and from the sound of things, it was an emergency. The hospital she is in also happens to be the one where Kevin Owens was born, and said that while WWE wouldn't have had a problem if he missed the show, his mother would have. Owens ended by saying he's more motivated than ever before against the Bloodline, as the prize fighter is ready to continue his years of wars with the group at Money in the Bank. Since WrestleMania 40, Solo Sikoa has slowly taken control of the Bloodline, and the last 2 weeks have proven to be some of the most pivotal in the near 4-year history of the group. This window of time has seen Jacob Fatu be brought into the faction, and Paul Heyman be kicked out as the WWE Hall of Famer was laid out with a triple powerbomb last week. It looks like this was a strategic move meant to isolate Roman Reigns in his absence, and the previous enforcer of the Bloodline and new leader, Sikoa, has been taking major steps. On SmackDown, Sikoa spoke about how Roman Reigns wasn't man enough to defend the undisputed WWE Universal title or his legacy against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40. Sikoa even went as far as to announce that he was the new tribal chief and essentially dared Roman Reigns to do something about it if he wants to be the leader of the family again. This will undoubtedly change the dynamic of the group moving forward, and SmackDown ended with an incredible shot of Solo in the middle while the new Bloodline took shape around him. On Twitter, Jacob Fatu made clear where his allegiances lie as he shared some blood emojis and stated that he has acknowledged Solo Sikoa. This promo was part of setting up the six-man tag at Money in the Bank, which is expected to set up a WWE title match between Rhodes and Sikoa at SummerSlam. Despite this, there was no interaction between the Bloodline and their opponents during last night's show, and there was confusion as to which Bloodline members will be in the six-man. During the early part of the segment, a graphic seems to have confirmed that it'll be Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu wrestling, leaving out the infamous Tonga Loa. This seems like the obvious call, as Fatu is the one with all the buzz around him after his debut, and he seems the more aggressive of the two, which Sikoa would want in the match. Loa has wrestled in 2 tag team matches in WWE so far, but the company seems to prefer him as an enforcer, while Tama Tonga has been busy in several matches. As for Roman Reigns, it remains unclear when exactly he'll be back, but fans are eagerly waiting to see what comes next in this Bloodline saga. We've got some unfortunate news now, as Kevin Sullivan, better known to many fans as the Taskmaster, is facing some serious medical issues and a financial crisis. On May 12th, Sullivan suffered an accident while in Florida for autograph signings, and while emergency surgery saved his leg and his life, he's faced issues including sepsis and encephalitis. This unforeseen situation has placed an immense financial burden on his family, as Kevin has been in and out of consciousness in the ICU, far from home. A GoFundMe has been started where they issued a statement about the Taskmaster and how he needs fans' help, and so far, the top donation is from DDP, who put in $1,000. Sullivan's career in wrestling began in the late 60s and spans 6 decades, and in his more recent years, he has been hosting a podcast where he discusses the business. Hopefully, Sullivan will be able to get through these setbacks, both physically and financially, and we're sending him our very best at this difficult time. As we said earlier, Jey Uso's DUI issue from 2018 was addressed during a segment, but Jey also had some interesting verbiage during his in-ring promo. As he spoke to the crowd, Uso was appreciative to be there, stating, "Y'all let me in," which some fans feel wasn't exactly about the country allowing him over the border. On Twitter, fans suggested that the "Let Me In" line was a nod to Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt Six, which comes after Jey adopted the Fireflies in his entrance, as we saw at Backlash France. Could Jey's reference make him a target of the Wyatt Six? Many feel it's possible, and we'll have to see what this line from SmackDown means for main event Jey going forward. The WWE Tag Team titles were on the line on SmackDown as A-Town Down Under faced DIY in the main event, and a good job was done building this bout with segments throughout the show. It felt like this match mattered, which isn't always the case with every title match on TV, and this quickly became a fast-paced match that saw action in and out of the ring. Waller accidentally hit Theory off the apron, but A-Town Down was able to recover and save his partner from being pinned, and the crowd were going nuts with each near fall. Ciampa and Gargano locked both men in submissions to win the match and the tag titles in a moment similar to one of their matches with FTR in NXT. WWE has been planting a lot of seeds for an A-Town Down Under breakup recently and played that up during the show leading to the match, and fans can expect a fantastic split. As for the new champions, fans are pleased to see them win, but unfortunately, they should not get used to seeing DIY with the tag team gold. According to one report, the plan is for the Bloodline to win the belts from DIY to establish themselves as even more hated and to give the group its first taste of gold under Solo Sikoa. As for when that title change will happen, it's hard to say, but don't be surprised if Johnny Gargano's return to his native Cleveland for SummerSlam is a bad homecoming for DIY. In May of this year, Ethan Page jumped to WWE NXT very shortly after his abrupt exit from AEW and ROH, and he wasted no time in targeting NXT champion Trick Williams. Since then, Page has been one of the top names in the gold brand, contrasting wildly to his days under Tony Khan, where he was a fixture of the lower mid-card or even lower than that. Speaking on Talkin' Shop, the all-ego superstar discussed his move to NXT and how it marked a significant change to what he's been used to during his time with AEW. He explained, "It's pretty crazy. I went from somewhere that was so chaotic and unorganized to a place that, I'm still learning because I'm so new here, but this is a machine and it's incredible. It feels good to not feel like I have to do everything myself. To have people that want to see me succeed is kind of mind-blowing." Page also praised the coaches at the Performance Center, noting how they have helped him refine his skills and approach to wrestling even after 17 years in the industry. This weekend, Page will challenge for the NXT Championship at Heatwave in a four-way that'll include Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and another AEW alum, Shawn Spears. As for whether Page will win the gold, that remains to be seen, but he's certainly grateful to be somewhere far more organized than what AEW and Ring of Honor had to offer. Since launching in 2019, Tony Khan has overseen the booking of AEW shows, and while there's been plenty of epic moments, there have been some decisions that have baffled fans. It was reported that AEW spends around $104 million on talent every year, and in the meantime, there has been a lot of criticism towards Tony Khan's booking decisions lately. On the Keepin' It 100 podcast, Eric Bischoff addressed ATM Tony's willingness to spend millions for talent contract and criticized high-dollar contracts for stars rarely seen on TV. Bischoff even compared their situation to being in witness protection, as they're being paid to keep quiet and not seen in a business decision the Hall of Famer finds baffling. Eric singled out Mercedes Monet's reported $5 million salary, which is said to include creative control, and questioned why Tony Khan would give her such an amount and influence. Bischoff then suggested that even a young monkey with a case of bananas could potentially outperform Khan as a booker. Whether one's a monkey or not, it is impossible to ignore that AEW has swiftly become the main competition to WWE, a spot Eric Bischoff and WCW once had but no longer do. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio recently, Khan hit back at a lot of Bischoff's criticisms and pointed at AEW's success compared to WCW. He said, "When did Eric Bischoff ever come to New York and do a $1 million gate? WCW never did a $1 million gate anywhere, let alone in NYC." While on the K100 podcast, Bischoff responded to this statement, suggesting that Khan is extremely insecure and emotionally immature, and said taking shots at WWE was proof of this. Bischoff disagreed with AEW taking digs at WWE, arguing that the two companies are in different leagues when it comes to business. In a meat-heavy analogy, Bischoff said that AEW is like a hot dog stand sat outside a fine steak restaurant, bragging about how it sells more hot dogs than the high-end establishment. Bischoff concluded that Tony Khan isn't in wrestling, but rather produces TV shows in an effort to crave recognition, and therefore brings criticism and ridicule on himself. Eric Bischoff has once again had a lot to say about Tony Khan and AEW, but do you agree with Eazy-E? Let us know in the comments section down below. Now, tonight's Money in the Bank event will be the first show of its name to take place in Canada, and the show will feature one of the Great White North's most beloved stars. Taking to her website, Trish Stratus shared that in addition to having been part of the kickoff event, she will also be the host of the show, a year on from being in the women's ladder match. Stratus was joined by some notable names during yesterday's kickoff event, including Michael Cole, who had a unique request for those in attendance. Cole urged fans to wear white to Money in the Bank so they can have a whiteout, and we'll have to see if the fans follow Cole's request tonight in the Scotiabank Arena. Now, there was a time when Pretty Deadly were one of the most entertaining duos in NXT, and their time would see them win the NXT and NXT UK Tag Team Championships. After being called up to SmackDown, the pair continued to entertain, but after a long feud with the Brawling Brutes, they've vanished from TV in March 2024. Last week, Pretty Deadly interrupted the Street Profits backstage, setting up a tag team match, and despite this being their return match, the Brits lost thanks to a Montez Ford frog splash. This was Pretty Deadly's first TV match since March 29th, where they faced Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, though they have had a handful of dark matches and live event bouts. This was a solid match that featured two teams who should be pillars of the tag team division, as all four men are great athletes with defined gimmicks and the ability to work well with anyone. With this win, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are back on track to win the WWE Tag Team Championships, as their path has been derailed in recent months due to the Final Testament. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair were back in action this week as they faced Candice LeRae and Indi Hartwell, and while we saw the entrances, the match began during an ad break. Cargill took a lot of the punishment from Lerae and Hartwell before she was able to tag in the EST, and in the end, the faces hit their finishers simultaneously to get the win in a few minutes. Kathy Kelly interviewed them as soon as it was over, and they declared their intentions to regain the WWE Women's Tag titles from Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. SmackDown saw Bayley offer some advice to the Money in the Bank participants as she won the briefcase in 2019, but was interrupted by Chelsea Green. Green said the only reason Bayley retained at Clash at the Castle was because she was ejected from ringside and vowed to win the briefcase, but Bayley said she should just try and win a match. Piper Niven then struck Bayley from behind, and Green warned the role model that the next time Piper attacks her, she'll be cashing in the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. In a Clash at the Castle rematch, Bayley took on Piper Niven following their earlier encounter in the show, and Io Sky was shown watching from the crowd. Niven took control early and almost won with a running senton, but the role model kicked out and recovered enough to hit a bulldog from the corner. This match effectively built on the chemistry fans saw in Glasgow and put on a fun match, but the arrival of the Money in the Bank competitors distracted from what was happening in the ring. Chelsea Green and Naomi began fighting, and it caused everyone around the ring to start brawling, and Tiffany Stratton took everyone out with a moonsault. This came about before Bayley won with the Rose Plant, but her celebration was cut short by Nia Jax, as the Queen of the Ring has her sights set on the women's title and SummerSlam. In May of this year, Tiffany Stratton shared a video on Instagram of herself hitting Jade Cargill during a match, with a zoom in on Bianca Belair looking stunned by the attack. Stratton included crying, laughing emojis with the video. The audio in the video featured a clip with a person saying "black," accompanied by a slap sound. That phrase spawned a backlash from fans, with some accusing Stratton of being racist, while many tagged Triple H in their tweets, demanding for Stratton to be let go. The video was quickly deleted by Stratton, and when speaking to Adrian Hernandez, acknowledged that she made an error of judgment. She said, "It was an honest mistake. I didn't hear the audio. I had it up for maybe 20 seconds, and I deleted it instantly as soon as I heard the audio. It was an honest mistake." Stratton was fortunate to remain in her role, especially as at the time the Wrestling Observer said that was she not the star WWE had made her, she likely would have been fired. In the end, Stratton is still a WWE superstar, and one that will no doubt make sure what she posts on social media isn't going to cause issues from here on. Over the past month or so, a lot has been said about Shane McMahon going to AEW after WWE's prodigal son brought up the idea to talent from the All Elite company. While Shane and Tony Khan have never met, the AEW president has said Shane is more than welcome to join, but don't expect to see him on Dynamite just yet. On his Extreme Life podcast, Matt Hardy, who spent years with AEW, addressed the notion of Shane being All Elite and why fans shouldn't put too much faith in the rumors. He said, "He's not. I heard from someone, none of that was true. It's Matt fiction, 100% yeah. It would be wild. Shane reached out to someone. I said like, why is all this talk of me in AEW? Why is this going on? People started texting me about it and reached out to someone and asked them about it, which was interesting." Matt's claim contrasts greatly with what has already been said about Shane in AEW, and at this time, McMahon himself has not publicly confirmed or denied the rumors that he spoke with talent. In this new era, it seems nothing is impossible. Just ask WWE's very own CM Punk. But fans expecting to see Shane in AEW may be waiting a very long time, according to Matt Hardy. And we're ending with SmackDown as the excitement continued after the show went off the air, and Canada's own Sami Zayn would defend the Intercontinental title in a dark match. After the show, Zayn retained against Chad Gable, marking his latest defense against the Olympian after retaining on the April 15th Raw, in Saudi Arabia, and at Clash at the Castle. Sami cut a promo to the Toronto crowd, saying that despite him being from Montreal, the Toronto audience has always made him feel like a hometown crowd. In another dark match, women's Money in the Bank combatants Io Sky and Naomi faced off, and it was Sky who walked away with the win. Whether Sky can become a two-time Money in the Bank winner tonight remains to be seen, but this win certainly gives her an advantage going into the all-important ladder match.